You have your house allowance, and you're also going to have your medical insurance. So the era of discrimination of ECD teachers is over.
The Meru County government right there with goodies for ECDE teachers and managers, and also, of course, the personnel in polytechnics in that region. Now, the Kenya Seed Company has assured farmers in the maize-growing areas that their seeds are safe for the next planting season. This follows allegations that head smut disease, which has been noticed in parts of the North Rift, has spread through those seeds. After the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture toured seed farms on a fact-finding mission, it established that the head smut is a fungal disease spread through soil and that there is no case in Trans Nzoia. Kenya Seed Company Managing Director Azaria Sawyer affirmed that head smut disease has only affected a few acres in Nandi, whilst in Gishu and Marakwet counties. He advised farmers whose plants are affected to uproot the affected plants and burn them to get rid of the disease and also practice crop rotation. Farmers were further cautioned not to feed livestock with the affected plants because it can be spread through cow dung.
We have two lines that have tassels. These are, we have removed the male part. So we only remain with the female part of the plant, which is the cob. And these are the silks where we do which carries out pollination grains. So this was a very good crop because of the pollination. You can see the grains have filled nicely.
A number of women groups from Bungoma paralyzed operations at the offices of an international construction company, demanding their pay of 10 million shillings that has been overdue for 2 years now. The women accused the management of H. Young Company, allegedly an Israeli company tasked with building the Webuye-Malaba highway, for delaying their pay, despite having completed the agreed work of planting indigenous trees as well as grass along the highway 2 years ago. The company's project manager was on the receiving end but could not do much, claiming the decisions for the company squarely lie in the hands of another senior person back in Israel. Not even the administration police from Kandui AP post could calm down these angry women who claim they have been deprived of what belongs to them for far too long.
Tumejaribu kutafuta njia zote ili tuweze kulipwa pesa yetu. Wamekataa. It is now wanasema ya kwamba management yenye ilikuwa hapa colluded. Wanasema women should be empowered. Lakini hakuna kitu, tunafanya kazi na pesa hatulipi. Tutakuwa empowered namna gani? Gavana yetu kupata ni ngumu. Tumeenda kwake atufiki atusaidie. Atatusaidia wakati kura iko ama saa hii. Tunataka tumuone akuje atusaidie. Tumeenda paka kwa county commissioner.
Now, Lamu leaders have requested for more time to go through the environmental impact assessment report on the proposed 2014 billion shilling Lamu coal power project. Addressing residents of Pate Island, Lamu Women Representative Shakila Abdallah said that a period of 3 months or more was appropriate for residents to be taken through the 1,800-page report and make an informed decision. Tourism and fisheries will all be wiped out by the project, she said, adding that the whole of the Lamu ecosystem will be affected, including the mangrove forests. According to Lamu Governor Isa Timami, the county government was still studying the IEA report and are yet to endorse the project. The establishment of the coal-fired power plant had previously been given a lifeline after the National Land Commission, NLC, granted Lamu Power, the company behind the project, land rights. Timami accused the NLC of coming up with its own list of beneficiaries that has been kept secret. The IEA report has also led to the resignation of a top county official who voiced her opposition to the controversial project.
Na kuna ule mradi wenyewe unakuja kuletwa pale, utakuwa na faida gani na athari gani kwetu sisi watu wa Lamu? Mradi huu hauchagui rangi wala kabila wala dini. Ukija utaathiri kila mtu, na kama ni faida ni kwa kila mtu.
Fusion Capital recently launched the first D-rate in Kenya, looking to raise some 2.3 billion shillings for the development of Greenwood City, a mixed-use development in Meru County, Kenya. The selling period for the Fusion Real Estate Development initial public offer came to a close on Wednesday this week, having achieved a 38% subscription, which was 12% below the minimum required threshold. Accordingly, Fusion is looking to engage the Capital Markets Authority and the Nairobi Stock Securities Exchange on other future issues of rate securities. The development is strategically located in the heart of Meru County and will remain a key feature of the city for many decades to come. Meru County continues to prove itself a great investment hub, noting an urbanization rate of 11% and a population growth of some 15%. Fusion Capital is pursuing the county strategy, having now invested in Nairobi, Meru, Nakuru, Mombasa, Machakos, Kajiado, Murang'a and Kiambu counties, and intends to develop medium-sized projects in these areas, mainly mixed-use developments in the center of these towns. Cybersecurity experts have urged insurance and banking service companies in Kenya to enhance the pace of deployment of secure ICT practices in their organizations. According to ICT security company ESET East Africa, the recent influx of cases of cyber attacks and breaches in the local financial service sector is attributable to the slow pace of implementation of ICT security protocols.
You need a solution that covers you so much, but you need to think about the fact that I can't install and update the software onto your employees. Those are the people that physically open the door to your network, and those are the people that require another solution.
You will see that cyber attacks is actually increasing, especially since we had fiber in the country. Access to systems and speeds are very quite fast. So basically, every organization is at risk of being attacked.
Following the government's revision of excise duty in the 2016 budget, the Association of Insurance Brokers of Kenya, AIBK, is claiming challenges regarding the capacity to collect it. The main reason being various reconciliation issues with insurance companies. AIBK Vice Chairman Anthony Mwangi says that the excise duty will have a severe impact on the insurance brokerage sector and plans to ensure the reconciliation processes go as planned.
We're also getting very good help, assistance and from the regulatory authority who we have already met, and they are supportive of the idea, and we will be making members know how this progresses. But it's an important issue that should not be left on its own, otherwise it can also bring a lot of insurance company brokers down, considering that there has been a lot of issues before that were not addressed, a lot of reconciliations issues.
Well, that sweet music signals that we are now focused on the TICAD 6 conference here in Nairobi, and the city of Nairobi is preparing for the start of the Japan-led trade talks known as TICAD. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is already in the country and held talks with President Uhuru Kenyatta ahead of these talks. The two say the talks, the first of their kind to be held in Nairobi and in Africa, will deepen trade ties between Japan and Africa. The Japanese Prime Minister pledged further investment from his country and help in developing agriculture in this nation.
We will be welcoming many heads of state, thousands of delegates, for the very first TICAD to be held on African soil. With the very gracious help of Prime Minister Abe, TICAD has finally come home, and it is about time. In the year since its inception in 1993, TICAD has been a key forum for informed discussion of African development between Africa, Japan, as well as other partners. It has matured into a first-class multilateral forum, attracting leaders in business, industry, as well as government and civil society. At these discussions, a wide range of expertise and experience is represented, united under a single guiding principle of partnership. That is because development, as all the delegates will know, is not something that will happen to Africa. It is Africans themselves who will win the freedom and the prosperity that they deserve. The privilege of bringing TICAD home fell on Kenya, and we are honored and indeed humbled in accepting the invitation to host the forum. We saw ourselves as accepting it on behalf of Africa, and that is why we welcome so many African delegates who will join us in this great forum. We look forward to frank deliberation during the summit itself and to a new strengthening of the ties not just between Africa and Japan, but also between African nations themselves. For Africa is rising, ladies and gentlemen, but that rise will reach its full height only if we each lift the other.
Now, as delegates and heads of state continue jetting in for the TICAD conference, a number of key discussions are already underway, one of these being the Infrastructure Summit. Now, KTN's Abby Agine is standing by with the Infrastructure Principal Secretary, Engineer John Musonik. Take a look.
Well, many thanks for Kaba back in studio. We want to now speak to Engineer John Musonik, who is the Principal Secretary in charge of infrastructure in the Ministry of Roads and Public Works, ahead of TICAD. And as you know, today there's a special session on infrastructure projects within Africa, and he'll be just updating us on some of the key areas of discussion. Many thanks, Bona PS, for making time. First things first, so far, what does this meeting hope to achieve that you're having currently?
All right, thank you very much. This meeting is, the key theme actually is high quality infrastructure. And mainly we are looking at various transport infrastructure projects. And right from airports, we are looking at the ports, we are looking at roads and everything. Now the main objective of this conference is mainly to exchange ideas between Japanese experience and Kenyans and African development, infrastructure development kind of projects. And as you see this morning, we have started the keynote speeches from various ministers from Africa, from Tanzania, from Ethiopia and so on. And then apart from that, the next session actually be getting experience from Japanese contractors and also policy government ministers so that we can be able to exchange the ideas. And I think this is a very, very important conference because we'll be sharing the experience. And apart from that, Japanese contractors are looking at opportunities within the African market, especially in infrastructure, where they can be able to develop and finance and roll out the infrastructure projects.
PS, just appraise us on some of the key projects that Kenya is undertaking in conjunction with Japan, and are we likely to see the portfolio increase after TICAD?
Yeah, correct. I think if you look at, there are many, many contractors who have come here from Japan, and I can estimate close to about 20 or so or more. And there's various kind of disciplines. They are experienced in road construction, they are experienced in port, all the kind of infrastructure projects, and also apart also energy infrastructure projects. Now, in road projects, of course, you remember the other day we launched one of the projects which is actually funded by TICAD, and the contractor there is Japanese. They've been doing also about a project in Port of Mombasa, the development kind of program, so they're fully participated in that area. And apart from that also, we have roads within Mombasa area which are being done, financed by TICAD. So I would say we have had various contractors in road infrastructure. We had Nippon, we have Kyoko, which are doing there, and also many others. So I expect, again, I'm looking forward again, as a result of this seminar, there'll be a lot of Japanese kind of business. And you remember, after this conference, later there'll be what we call business kind of matching, that is between the contractors and various sectors within infrastructure projects.
Bona PS, just shed some light to us to understand the worth of projects coming through, especially from Japan to Kenya. I know a number of projects have been done, including the port expansion project, the second container terminal. Of course, there's also the roads project. We did see you launch the other day with the president. And perhaps, what's the worth of the projects, if you can give us an estimation, and what figures are we looking at out of TICAD in terms of business deals between Kenya and Japan?
I would say at this point in time, if you look at the project which we launched the other day, it's actually close to about 1.5 billion Kenya shillings. If you look at the port, again, we are talking, I can't figure it, but I think it's about 10 billion Kenya shillings. And if you see the project again, which is ongoing in Mombasa, we're close to about 7 billion Kenya shillings. So I think all in all, I think this figure is going up. And I think, again, during presentation, we see there have been some volumes in terms of business, some peaks, about 3 peaks actually, which have been high volumes, especially in investment in African countries. So again, I want to put it forward that after this conference, I'll be looking forward in terms of volumes, in terms of project kind of proposals which are coming up, and we'll be looking higher kind of investment. Now, apart from that also, apart from being Japanese financing projects also, I think there'll be opportunity in terms of public-private partnership, which is again key within this sector. So there'll be private sector also who are interested in pairing with Japanese contractors or Japanese business investors, so that they can be able to progress on that front.
And finally, before we wrap it up, on a PS, what are some of the key expectations Kenya has in terms of infrastructure, and what impact will TICAD have now that you're seeing a number of projects being rolled out, and of course you're also heading to an election? How soon can we close on a majority of the projects in the pipeline?
Yeah, I think, again, we are racing against time. But apart from that also, we are racing in terms of efficiency, in terms of effectiveness in most of our projects. And we did the other day, we say most of the projects will be closing in towards the end of July next year. Towards the later quarter of the part next year, we'll be completing Gong Road, we'll be completing most of the projects in Mombasa. And all the other projects, not necessarily financed by Japanese projects. But I want to put it clear again that as a ministry, as a government, we thank Japanese government for most of these financing projects, and the kind of project implementation which you have had with the peoples and the governments of Japan. So I think, again, we are looking forward, and especially after this conference, to be able to increase that kind of finance major projects which are within the proposal stage. So that is my hopeful. Thank you.
And lastly, what's that one thing you'd like to see out of TICAD as the curtains come down on Sunday?
Yeah, I would like, there'll be a lot of major kind of decisions which will be made. But I think the key challenge is we really need to implement those kind of policies, those kind of commitments which we make after the conference, so that we have benefits, or we derive benefits actually to the Kenyan people and also the African continent at large. And we will be looking forward, especially in terms of implementation. And we'll be looking forward and we'll be actually expecting, and there are high expectation that within the next 2 or 3 years there'll be a lot of volume of business again between Japan and African countries.
All right. Our very own Abi Agina right there with the infrastructure PS, John Musonik, talking infrastructure. And of course, the last point he has made there, the fact that this conference is indeed important because we as Africans stand to benefit in many various ways. That is a conversation we want to continue with now here in studio. And joining me, I have 2 very important guests. First off, Mr. Mike Rabahi is the CEO of Homeboys, and Mr. Calvin Mudhuri, CEO of Urithi Sacco. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Now, it has been on everyone's mind, just to sort of start us off here, Mike, the fact that we have had all these conferences here in Nairobi so far for the last 2 years, and indeed all indications going forward indicating that we're going to have these high-level events. What essentially is the need for local businesses?
I think, thanks for the question. There's a lot at stake for basically all sectors of business in an environment like Nairobi's. Having come from an events background,
yes.
When you break it down into the various sectors that would actually help support these conferences, it's vast, and I think there's enough for everyone to feed off. Starting by the basic need from accommodation, transport, to merchandising, to local tourism, and then down to the technical support of the events as well. So I think there's a huge scope in there that we can actually tap into.
Yes. So Kevin, Urithi Sacco, 18,000 members, 11 different counties in Kenya with a focus on infrastructure, especially housing.
Yes.
When you go onto the global stage, the fact that with companies like Airbnb and others that are enabling people find accommodation in new ways, what are the advantages here, the little things that members of your organization can take advantage of?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's a Urithi Housing Cooperative Society and Urithi Premier Sacco.
Yes.
but the two are, so they are different organizations, but they serve the same purpose, so to say, which is to provide affordable housing to the members. One of the major benefits, which is the future of the industry that is in Kenya, not only in Kenya but also in Africa, there is a lot of shortage when it comes to housing, not only in the cities but also even in the rural areas, and also with rural urban migration and all that. And then when you look at the conventional ways of construction, that is the normal brick and mortar, you realize that one, it is quite expensive in terms of not only the cost put into the project, but also time taken into a project. If you take like 3 years in a project, it means that the cost of construction at the end of the day, the headache of managing even the various sites is also a challenge. Certain conferences, they help us as a nation, even as an organization as Urithi, to know what has been done in those other nations. Like for example, when you look at Japan, the new technology in housing amongst other countries. And in that case, the main advantage, once we take advantage of such, it means you're able to offer a better house, which is more durable, which has got more benefits, and most important, you're able to offer that house within a very short period of time. Talk of also other infrastructure like roads and all that. In a given project, in a given construction site, there are those other amenities that you provide to the members.
The utilities.
The utilities. One of them being roads, the other one being energy. So the moment we are able to have certain conferences, we're able to see what is the world doing regarding such infrastructural developments. We're able to take certain advantage of certain technologies in road construction, in energy. The other day there was a blackout in almost every part of the country.
Of this country, yes.
And also still even in that you find that there are those other parts of the country also that there is no power and other sources of energy. But now when you take advantage of this, it means you're able to offer it cheaply, and also there is that convenience given that you're producing your own at a very minimum cost, which means you can even regulate the supply.
Would you then be able to say that as an organization you have been able to start taking advantage of what is going on currently and in the past, and be able to implement those benefits to the benefit of your members?
Yes, as an organization, we've been able to take such. In the past 3 months or so, we've been looking at technology in housing, and we are looking and studying countries like Japan, countries like China, countries like Malaysia, whereby we want to offer housing in an affordable way. And the first project that we are doing, that we shall be embracing such technology, we're doing 500 units along Kangodo Road, that is at Joska, whereby we are taking advantage of this technology to offer houses in an affordable way within the shortest time period of time, whereby we are giving a 2-bedroom house at about 1.6 million, which is scalable. Another thing is there is what we call a growing house, whereby at the moment you can start with a 1-bedroom, but as your family grows and all that, you can upscale that maybe to get a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and all that.
So it's innovation around the all different ways.
It is innovation around, but also we are looking at, because you know, Kenya is Kenya, so to say, there is what people are used to. People, they are used to the normal brick and mortar, the quarry stones and all that. So we are looking at how can we have a hybrid. We have the conventional way. How can we marry that with the latest technologies, and also educating our people? It is not a must to find the quarry stones. There are countries whereby when you talk of enzyme stabilization technology, whereby you are able to construct, there's a new concept in Israel, for instance, whereby you are able to construct a house without the need for any cement.
You use gypsum, you use soil.
There is gypsum, there is soil, but there is the EPS, the styrofoams, that a house is constructed at the factory. Then when you come to the ground, it's just assembling. The bigger parts, they're just, your work on site is just to join.
Yes, just hold that thought. Very interesting. I want to now go to Mike. The fact that the things he's talking about in these conferences basically mean that technology transfer is essentially what we are talking about, being able to educate our people. A critical part of that is being able to grow the population in a way that the young people learn about these things and are able to scale them into businesses. Talk to us about mentorship and what you're doing about that.
Just to remind what he said, I think technology is going to be a very key player in terms of just progressing and growing what we're doing as a whole. So we have taken actually steps towards creating spaces where young people can come in and start to interact with technology. So we've got one such space called the Y Hub.
Yes.
That we're now encouraging young people to come in there, experiment with new ways of engaging, scientific ways of trying to solve some kind of problems using technology. And we're seeing very quick uptake. We even have actually kids as early as 6 coming into the space and learning how to build and design houses, like you just mentioned, using certain tools that have been available to them.
Yes.
So moving forward, you then find a very exposed and energized populace that understands how technology and the soft and hard end of construction, for instance, would come into play.
Yes.
And they're also now being able to design and imagine and bring to life ideas that they now can now bring turn into bricks and mortar. So I think the housing space is one area we're seeing a lot of young people now engaging and designing spaces they can now call their own and customize. And you're moving into things like intelligent homes where your house can adapt to your mood, you know, things like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people of a certain age in this country, people like myself, have grown up watching things called Japan video topics, which would have suggested that Japan was very well sort of grounded in technology and taking technology very seriously and being able to lay out various infrastructure in terms of growing people in the various vocations and various technological specializations that they think the country needs. Do you think as an organization you are able to sort of help Kenya develop the skills that are necessary to achieve some of the things that we're talking about and which are a real gap today?
Actually, that's a very interesting question. We've just realized the way to actually attract this, the young populace to get involved in technology is through gaming. So we now wrote a program called Camcode, where we're getting kids as young as 6 designing games and games that actually work. But when you start getting into the gaming space, you start building environments.
Yes.
Environments mean creating plans, you know, infrastructure. So you're going to navigate a certain game to do certain things and a certain character go through certain elements. And that is just all about logic and planning.
Yes.
And planning and sensitizing and actually mapping out causes. So you're slowly getting these young people beginning to use logic to make calculated steps. And there's what you call like sim cities where they design virtual spaces that have such certain virtual, I think, clubs and rooms where they can do certain kind of programs. So they're beginning to really think beyond just a vertical space, but horizontally. So we're using technology a lot to actually, and the key thing is the interest is very, very high. But you're seeing how they're implementing that kind of challenge to create an environment, and if you just translate it into the ground, you find it actually planning cities indirectly. Beginning to understand why things are arranged in certain ways. So flow of movements, flow of people, amenity in certain areas, speed of execution of certain tasks. So I think for us, we are learning a lot as we progress with it.
Kevin, Mike has just talked about planning the environment and the fact that as a country, we don't seem to have planned for the future. For example, look at Nairobi today, maybe having been planned for maybe up to 1 million people, we have in excess of 4.5 million today. I don't want you to give us the answer right now. We want to go on a short break, but when we do come back, we want to delve into that issue, the fact that while nations such as Japan and China and other Asian tigers seem to be planning, indeed decades and centuries in advance, planning 100 years in the future, we are still planning for the year 2030. That and more coming up in a short while. Do stay with us. Mwambia